Time frame, images of a generation. We grew up in a simpler time. We sang.
Say, kids, what time is it? M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E.
We laughed.
Hello, boy.
I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
We cried.
President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot.
We fought. We loved. We were attacked.
Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii by air.
Our flag was still there. Now these memories come to life on posters that can be yours today. Go to howdyboomy.com for your copies today. That's howdyboomy.com. howdyboomy.com.
Welcome to today's edition of the Howdy Boomy Show. Hope you visit the website, howdyboomy.com, which basically gives you a time capsule of the baby boomer generation growing up in the 50s and 60s, extending maybe up to 1970, 71. Time capsules for both the World War II generation, the baby boomer generation, a tribute to the firemen who served and died on 9/11 in New York City, and those who served and died Pearl Harbor, World War II. Today we're going to discuss briefly a few concepts that, on the poster itself here, the original baby boomer poster, there's images of Mayor Richard J. Daley, there's images of Hubert Humphrey, Edward Muskie, images of the Democratic Convention in the city of Chicago. Now, I'm a native of Chicago, and I went to an all-male Catholic high school where either you went on to college or you became a Chicago policeman or fireman. And in 1968, my father ran a trucking company, and actually I worked. I drove a truck. And going to the garage that day, which was about 5 miles from my house, I had to take 2 city buses. And anywhere there was green grass, between parkways, parks in Chicago, there were National Guard and Army troops bivouacked, because the Democratic Convention in Chicago in 1968 was one disruptive riot after another in the streets of the city. People from around the world came there just to disrupt what was going on. It was amazing sitting on the buses and seeing all these Army tents and all the Army personnel. Anywhere there was green on public property, there was troops bivouacked. In 1968, on a Thursday, after demonstrations every day, anti-war, anti-Hubert Humphrey, it was a Thursday, and I took a girl on a date. And at that time, one of the tallest buildings in the city of Chicago was the Prudential Building, with a revolving restaurant on top overlooking Grant Park and Michigan Avenue. We were there at dinner. We were watching the people riot, not as bad as usual, in Grant Park, just demonstrating. And all of a sudden, that we later found out that the convention itself, within the borders of the Chicago Coliseum where the convention was being held, voted down the peace plank, which would, I guess, have withdrawn troops from Vietnam. And the people who were demonstrating turned out to a full riot. Now, Grant Park was lined by hundreds and hundreds of Chicago policemen. As you looked out the restaurant, you saw Grant Park below you. You saw the Conrad Hilton Hotel where Muskie and Hubert Humphrey were staying, and there were helicopters flying around that. You saw further in the horizon the Chicago Amphitheater with helicopters flying around that. Well, what the demonstrators did at that time is they urinated on the American flag. And that is when the Chicago police went nuts. They went and they just started beating people with their sticks, throwing them into paddy wagons, throwing them anywhere they could, getting them incarcerated. And it was all-out war. As I came down the elevator with the girl, I had a three-piece suit on. She was dressed very, very nicely. Imagine you're at the Empire State Building street. There's probably 40 or 50 steps going up before you get in. Chicago police cars were flying up those stairs. They put myself and the date up against the wall. Thank God I knew one of the cops, and he told me in no uncertain terms where I should go. But that gives you some idea of what the people did in that city at that time. Usually there were 4 people in a police car, and rioters tried to weld them in there and start the cars on fire. That's how disruptive it was. People from around the country came to disrupt the city of Chicago and the Democratic Convention. It wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't something that wasn't planned. It was out and out riots planned by people who were against the war, people who were anti-establishment. It was a thing to do during the day, I guess. I also remember roughly in that point in time, I'm watching the Johnny Carson show. And the Vietnam War was going hot and heavy, and Johnny Carson had one of his guests on was Gore Vidal, who was a novelist, a Pulitzer Prize winner, had all kinds of great bestsellers, liberal, and they were discussing the Vietnam War. And Johnny Carson turned to Gore Vidal and says, "Well, Gore, if you were president of the United States, what would you do?" And he said, very matter-of-factly, "I would declare victory and pull out." And Johnny Carson was sort of amazed. He said, "I mean, how can you say that?" And Gore Vidal came up with one of the great statements ever. He said, "The public has a memory of 6 weeks." And that's true. You take a look at, I just witnessed the State of the Union address with President Biden. And I have no idea how many lies he told. I have no idea how many lies are told in Washington on a daily basis. But Will Rogers said, voter memory loss is the reason politicians stay in office. And I'll bet you if you went back and try to give yourself a little test, or give your neighbors a test, or give your friends a test, and go back 2 months to 3 months through the news, sports, anything around, put down some things that happened and mention them, see if they make a quiz out of it and see if they can do it. The public has a memory of 6 weeks. So I'll always remember that. It's sort of interesting, and given the political climate that we have today, where there's lie after lie and they just keep on telling you things. I go back, remember during the Trump administration, we were doing pretty well. We were respected around the country. Russia was not in Ukraine. China was sort of sitting on their heels because Trump really put them down with tariffs and manufacturing. The world leaders respected us. On election, not on the election day, I paid $1.86 for a gallon of gas. But then before that, COVID hit, and that was, I think, the beginning of the undoing of the Trump administration. And it was just chaos after that. But up until that point in time, the United States was well respected around the country, and financially and economically was doing super, better than it ever has. But we forget that because, number one, the Democrats cast their stories around. The press perpetuates those stories. We have found out that the Russiagate's a hoax. How are you an editor of a newspaper? How do you live with yourself when you know you perpetrated a hoax? FBI, CIA. How do you live with yourself when you know you perpetrated a hoax? Your readers, you're supposed to be fair. They say fair and balanced. It's a joke. It's a total joke, but yet all the newspapers get away with it. It's amazing how a politician can say one thing, and if the press likes him, and what he says is not good, how they'll twist it around to make it seem like he said the right thing. And if they go after you, they'll make up stuff. They'll go after you like you can't believe. And that's something that back in the days of the baby boomers, you really didn't see that much of. It's become very, very separatist now. Very, very... Politics is a dirty game to begin with. Now they make it personal. And there's a lot of money involved, as we'll find out, as our little buddy Hunter Biden will tell us. So go visit the website. We're signing up sponsors, the McDonald's people, Tim Hortons Donuts, Coca-Cola, General Motors, AutoZone, State Farm Insurance, Visa, MasterCard. Join the Howdy Boomy site. Become official member of the Peanut Gallery. As I said before, when you get on the site, that's the first thing you're going to see is a replica of the bumper sticker. $19.68. You'll get the bumper sticker. You'll get discounts on future purchases. And you'll become a member of the Great American Peanut Gallery, which will help fund these broadcasts. Below that, you will see something called the Howdy Boomy video, which is going to show you exactly what's entailed in the new website, how it's going to work. And number one, it's very entertaining. Number two, you'll be very, very happy with all the categories and elements that make up a baby boomer lifestyle on a day-to-day basis that you are going to be saving a lot of money on every day, because you are going to get this for being a member of the Peanut Gallery, the Baby Boomer card. There's videos that accompany each poster that, as I've said before, should be shown in every history class in the country. Because, again, they're very factual. They'll bring back memories. They're very entertaining, and they're funny. So go to the site, howdyboomy.com, the posters, the 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, which is new. We've got a couple of new products coming out. And enjoy the website. Maybe we'll talk again tomorrow, try to figure out where I have to plug in my car now to make it go. So, global warming, you know what they say, you don't fool with Mother Nature. Anyhow, welcome to thehowdyboomy.com. Thanks for watching the Howdy Boomy Show. God bless you. God bless America.